Well, who here likes fall foliage? This guy. Who likes fall foliage with a stogie in hand with the leaves falling all around them even more? This guy. Yeah. Well, let's get to it, shall we? Oh, hi, Dorian. How you doing, kiddo? What's going on? You guys need to leave me alone. I'm sunbathing. To make the most of this awesome weather, I have decided to fire up a Graycliff 300 Silver Edition. Since this cigar is rolled as a pyramid, it is 6 inches long with a 52 ring gauge. Produced at the Graycliff factory down in the Bahamas, this one has an Ecuadorian Habano wrapper, filler from Costa Rica, Honduras, Nicaragua, and the Philippines, and then a binder that is Ecuadorian as well. Aesthetically, the cigar is pretty mottled, actually. It's not a very attractive cigar to me whatsoever. The chrome band is definitely not my thing, and neither is it the cameras. That's having trouble actually focusing because it's giving off so much glare. I hold it right at this angle. I dare not rotate it. And there's a very unsightly finishing spot on the wrapper where it didn't crack. It seems like the binder's kind of bulging through and created an open gaping wound. So we'll see how this thing burns as it goes. After doing a little bit of research on this particular cigar blend, I realized that it was created by the former head honcho behind the Cuban Cohiba brand. And he was, well, maybe not the head honcho, but one of the master blenders. And he jumped ship and produced a bunch of cigars for Graycliff, with this blend being one of them. And the silver line also, I find, is the only one that doesn't have a shaggy foot on it. All the others are unfinished foot, so this one is cut clean. And it also is a cigar that I've realized I personally do like. I smoked one before and I did enjoy it, and it's very tea-like. A few other notable facts about this blend is that Graycliff only uses tobacco that has been aged for at least 5 years to make it. It also likes to take some of the most interesting approaches to blending a medium strength, medium bodied cigar by providing flavor profiles that lean very, very heavily on tea, green tea, black tea, hell, even tea tree oil. I can pick these up on the nose from the foot as well as the barrel. And when I smoked the last one, I sure as hell picked them up in the flavor profile as well. So let's get to it, shall we, and see what this one offers. Mm, mm. Yeah, cold pulls on this one, just like the other one. Straight up tea all the way through. Very, yeah, a very green tea like. And makes me think of those Arizona green teas, ones with a little bit of plum in it. It's got some sweetness behind it. With the other cigar that I smoked, this one also needed more than one cut to get it to start pulling right. The caps and shoulders on these pyramids are pretty damn tightly rolled and constructed. So you may need to retry your cut. So start conservatively and then work your way forward, because remember, you can never go back from there. But once you do get them lit up, the draw is fine. And that little imperfection on the wrapper that I noted earlier hasn't caused me any trouble thus far. It starts off a little rough. I'm not going to lie. The start to this cigar and the one prior had a pretty kind of just leathery, dry and peppery start that just was pretty much painful to retrohale, and wasn't really just that pleasing. But there are certain cigars that do that when you start up and you just work your way past it. Once you get to the first third really coming into its own, though, you'll pick up on some nice honey notes, as well as this really wonderful tea taste, which again, that's the big thing about this cigar. I've smoked a lot of cigars that have tea notes, but this one very much is an herbal tea experience, and a little grassy, a little hay-like, but really green tea and black tea together as one, a combo with that honey finish. Way to go right out the gate. Get further into the first third, and there's almost a green apple note that comes through. Not all the way the flesh of the apple, it's a little fainter and more like the peel of a green apple. But with the honey and the cedar that is just really flowing through the cigar right now, you cannot say that this sucks, because it doesn't. Actually, the cigar does suck. And in that regard, I mean, it sucks smoke straight up the barrel and into your pie hole the way that a properly constructed cigar should. Last stick that I smoked went over beautifully in the draw department. Not too loose, not too tight. Didn't really have to fight it once it's lit up and the first third was combusting. This one's the same. Wonderful, wonderful draw. And as with the other stick, my lord, the ash is pretty darn good. I mean, yeah, it's got a little flake here and there, and it's a little uneven, but the cigar was, well, kind of rough and tumble to begin with, so go figure. But ow, it's really on there and burning evenly at that. Yeah, that is the entire first third in one ash. First third ashed off. I think it's about time we give you a little bit of history behind this cigar. It's been rolled and produced by Graycliff since about 2012. But the Graycliff cigar manufacturing brand has been rolling since 1997. Apparently, it started with one roller in front of the Graycliff restaurant down in the Bahamas way back in the 90s and has grown into what it is today. But that doesn't explain the 300 years of excellence that is stamped on the front of the cigar band itself. Because Graycliff has actually been around for 300 years. That's why they were celebrating it in 2012. So, hence this smoke and this special blend. Getting back on track with cigar flavor profiles and all that jazz, the tea-like tastes have kind of come into their own and they become more round. This is a medium cigar, medium strength, medium body, just medium, but a very clean kind of medium. It's got an aftertaste that, again, it's just this sweet tea-like taste that has a little bit of bitterness like tea, but not in an unpleasant way. And the amount of cedar that you get from the cigar is pretty solid. It's not overwhelming, but it is very much a key player, shall we say. But that was earlier. Now that we're in the second third, it's much more round and malty. The honey is notable, but it's more, again, of a malt syrup taste. And the cedar has turned more into this a little bit of a charry taste, but not an unpleasant charry taste, not a bitter charry taste. Again, it's just a little bit more on the smokier side. Again, think smoked meats or smoked vegetables. And it's still an herbal taste as well that's kind of supporting it all. It's very grassy and hay-like. Interesting. I'm curious as to what this Filipino tobacco inside does for this blend as well, because I'm sure that contributes to something, right? Final third of the cigar makes for an interesting transition. Because beforehand it's been all tea and maybe a hint of green apple peel here and there, a little tartness, a little bit of bitterness, cedar, everything we just discussed. But here in the final third, it's suddenly getting almost kind of like a tropical toasted coconut taste, which is kind of befitting because the cigar is manufactured down in the Bahamas. And with that, you get almost this kind of milky cocoa flavor, like cocoa powder, like Nesquik. It's not a ton of it, but it's definitely sweet and creamy and milky and cocoa, and which goes great with, well, toasted coconuts. It's almost like a, what is it, Mounds bar, I think, is the coconut chocolate bar, which is kind of interesting considering, well, how the cigar started. You still do get, some tea-like flavors, but what a peculiar transition. Within the final third, you get a sudden transition away from milk cocoa and more back towards cedar and a dry cedar. This is not something I was expecting to encounter in the cigar, especially since the one that I smoked before did not have this profile at this point in the stick. Usually toward the end of a cigar, you get a little more, rounder, heavier mouthfeel, and it's a little more charry perhaps, or even more cocoa-ish, things like that. It's all the oils and resins cook inside the cigar and end up down on this end. So this is a very light way to finish things out, which is kind of peculiar. You don't encounter that all that often. Something else to note about this cigar is its ash. I mean, look at that. That is the entire second third and a good bit of the final third as well right there. And it's really windy out here in the mountains of southern Japan today. And this sucker, he's flaked a little bit, but he's not going anywhere. Whew. What is going somewhere, though, is the flavor profiles of the cigar. It's going back to those coconut notes from earlier. So it's flip-flopped on you again. And these aren't wet, fresh cocoa nut taste. Again, it's roasted coconut, and not even like a whole coconut. Just think shavings, coconut shavings. You put on top of a pie or something like that. And there is some char developing at this point in the cigar, this far down, which is a little bit on the bitter end. I've been pacing myself and puffing slowly, and this cigar has taken almost 2 hours to smoke. And it's still burning very cool, but the flavor profiles are becoming a little bit off at this point, which lets me know that it's about time to put it down. Let's see how long this ash holds while I give you some of my final closing notes and a review on the Graycliff Silver 300. Because this has been a very peculiar stick for me. The blend that I smoked before, which is same blend, just different stick, was also a bit odd as well. I liked it, but I was also left just a little bit, confused because the cigar kind of is all over the place. I enjoy the first third of the cigar immensely. All the tea notes and a slight bitterness and the hints of cedar and the sweet honey-like flavor that comes through and that little bit of green apple peel. Oh, that was so much fun. But by the time the second third comes around, and it becomes more of those brewer malt like flavors, and this cigar kind of transitions to dark mode, so to speak, and the cedar really takes the forefront. It kind of loses its appeal. It goes from something truly special and vibrant and light and fun and medium, but still light and vibrant, to something that's a little bit more, a little darker, but a little bit more average tasting to me. And then there's the construction of the cigar to keep in mind, because whereas the ash is monolithic and every stage of the way, it's still a bit of an uneven burner and not very appealing, and just the way it looks. The cigar also needed two very sizable touch-ups, one at the end of the first third, and then another one when the transition between the second third and the final third. And that's not always a good thing, especially when they're of that size. And the smoke production was good. The draw was great, just enough resistance. So that earned, it's some redeeming factors. But all told, I still am kind of on the fence whether or not this is something that is worthy of anywhere above a 4.5. Because really, it's not. That's why I give it a 4.3. So I'm going to go tap this giant ash off and get some final photos of parting puffs and catch you guys in the next review. Cheers.